It's a mad social experiment. It's all about social experiment.
I'm a domestic terrorist.
Daniel Pinchbeck released a new book.
And now is the time for us all to forget what the word immeasurable means. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Pinchbeck.
Thank you. That was my friend speed language. Thank you all for coming and for Alex Luxburg for hosting this place. I'm going to read a few pages, and the book is called 2012, The Return of Quetzalcoatl. And I just spent the last 5 years kind of looking at prophecies and thinking about the Mayan calendar and the Hopi prophecies and the idea of the apocalypse, and looking at the time we're in now and all of the inconvenient truths that our sort of government and media aren't facing, and how we can actually sort of integrate these phenomena, including the ecological crisis, but also the kind of increase in psychic phenomena and psychic energy. Over time, I realized that the shamanic terrain into which I had stumbled out of inner yearning could be of the most intense importance. Of all improbable people, I felt compelled to venture across it. This twisting labyrinth of visionary kitsch and doomsday prophecy, machine elves and cosmic serpents, of Borsian palaces of paradox and Escher-like puzzles for the mind. This was an upsetting discovery. Where were the experts in these matters? Where were the proper wizards and esteemed dialecticians and academic mastery? Surely it was not left to someone like me, the clearly deficient, half-dissolute figure, a freelance journalist of dubious repute, to try to make sense of all these fragments and figments, to permeate them with thought, to put them in some proper order. As Terence McKenna put it, when he found that the entire area of psychedelic investigation and the philosophic implications of the intense visionary flights reliably produced these compounds had been abandoned by the intelligentsia after the 1960s, closed like an old dusty tome and returned to a library shelf, and it was up to him and a few of his friends to blow off the cobwebs. Nobody else wanted this. Of course, this is not exactly the case. As I will seek to make clear, a series of brilliant thinkers have explored and refined these ideas, not the least of them McKenna himself. My task has been one of assembling, contemplating, reconciling these disparate efforts, not into some reductive system, I hope, but into an expression of an implicate order that resembles an infinitely unfolding masterpiece of origami. Hovering over this process, it would seem, gently, if somewhat uncannily guiding my steps along this journey, perhaps, has been an ancient spirit and deity of Mesoamerican provenance, representing an entire complex of mythological thought, Quetzalcoatl. When I began this investigation, the name meant little to me, primarily associated with D.H. Lawrence's novel, The Plumed Serpent, which I had read long ago and forgotten. Quetzalcoatl. The name unites the quetzal, a bird of Mexico renowned for its colorful plumage, flute-throated flitterer atop rainforest trees, and the serpent, coatl, that sinks on its belly along the earth. Integrating what slithers cunningly in the dust and what soars brightly in the air, Quetzalcoatl as a symbol unifies perceived opposites, heaven and earth, spirit and matter, light and dark, science and myth. He is the god of wind and the morning star, dispenser of culture, with a special affinity for astronomy and writing and the planet Venus. He was the Attis, Adonis, Tammuz, Bacchus, Dionysius, Osiris, and quite possibly the Pan of the Western world, writes Peter Tompkins in his Mysteries of the Mexican Pyramids. The plumed serpent's antithesis in Toltec myth was the dark lord of limitation, death, and human sacrifice, Tezcatlipoca, smoking mirror, associated with black magic, obsidian, and the jaguar. In Hinduism, the snake represents the spiraling life force of Kundalini, the universal energy vibrating in the frequencies that make up all physical stuff, according to Schrödinger's wave equation of matter. As Tompkins writes, moving and undulant, the serpent in Mesoamerica symbolized life, power, planets, suns, solar systems, galaxies, ultra-galaxies, infinite cosmic space. The plumes, says Sneckley, were an added symbol of the levity with which birds can overcome gravity better than other creatures. When the plumes were depicted folded within a circle formed by the snake's body, they signified matter in its latent form, potential, as it was for the creation of stars and solar systems. If the plumes were fanned out from the serpent, they represented the universal manifestation, with all its created worlds, each plume symbolizing a basic element of the strength of nature: fire, earth, water, air. The mystery of Quetzalcoatl deepens when one learns that, according to legend, the conquistadors under Cortez arrived in the New World in the very year 1519, one read in the Aztec calendar, prophesied for his return. This synchronicity demoralized the Aztec Empire, which quickly capitulated to the rapacious Spaniards without putting up much of a fight. For the visionary Mayan scholar Jose Arguelles, Quetzalcoatl seemed not just a man but a multiple god, not just a man but many men, not just a religion but a mental structure. He came to see the plumed serpent as not just a local affair, but an invisible and immanent force underlying and transcending the mythic fabric of mechanization. Unlike many of the other deities in the Mayan and Aztec pantheon, whose ferociously leering visages greet us from the walls of ruined jungle temples, this cosmic creature was believed to have a compassionate affinity for the human species, to be a protector and intercessor on our behalf in the court of Omeotep, the Brahma-like creator deity of the Toltec pantheon. Quetzalcoatl, the alien music of the name in itself, can lead the modern mind along strange and disparate pathways, into vaudevillian fantasies and historical pageant pops, if we allow it to do so. Something in the sound of it ineffably suggests a kind of trickster, a magician jester whose pantaloon goofs conceal dead serious intent, conjuring shaman like tin plate vintage, wounded fisher king or Zarathustra-like pretender, serpentine guardian and gnarled avenger, winged stalker between realms of gravity and light, always playful yet playing for keeps. To continue the riff, in imaginative forays, one can sense some Quetzalcoatlian essence among ink-stained instigators, plotting revolution in the back rooms of Parisian cafes in the last days of the Ancien Regime. One hears in the odd syllables atonal strain of sexual anarchism, peacock strut of the zoot-suited pimp, steel-eyed homicide detective, Fritz Lang film noir investigating the murder of reality. Hint of futurist philosopher DJ sampling old memes into new epistemes. Or one catches faint glimpses of the great beast flaring fantastical plumage as Dionysian Pope presiding over pre-Raphaelite fairy kingdoms. On the other extreme, when studying Quetzalcoatl's mythological place, one senses an inner connection to the Gnostic Christ, whose secret countenance, so dignified and grave, is still obscured from us by centuries of religious propaganda and the shrill pronouncements of moralizing zealots. Not to forget those human incarnations of Quetzalcoatl, wizard kings of jungle palaces sporting serpentine headdresses, the last one enshrined in legend, 10th century ruler of the land of Tulan. Siakat Topiltzin Quetzalcoatl forbade human sacrifice and instigated a brief golden age before he was defeated by Tezcatlipoca's cynical sorcerers. Afterward, as myth has it, he wandered across Mexico as a brooding exile before unifying Mayan and Toltec cosmology in the magnificent temple complex of Chichen Itza, and finally disappeared to the west on a raft of serpents, vowing his eventual return. But Quetzalcoatl in New York, Aztec redeemer spirits swirling above smog-tinged Manhattan like an ethereal Chinese dragon. Quetzalcoatl biding his time as I shivered in midwinter, walking home from grade school, or lay in my hospital bed with dripping IV by my side, or staggered shit-faced away from a preppy soiree at the Paris Review, or spun my baby daughter on the creaky tire swings of Tompkins Square Park. The plumed serpent stretching iridescent wings over the churning crowds of urban grids of our all-too-human world. But I get ahead of things. So that's it. That's just a little bit from chapter 1. Thank you for listening.